So I've become uncomfortably conscious of the increasing use of dehumanizing language on both sides of the political aisle when talking about the other side. And while this is something that I do see more often on the right, I'm starting to see it pop up on the left as well. And I'm recognizing within myself that I had started to think about MAGA almost as a singular blob of terrible, awful things. And I really did not like that, because the danger in dehumanizing language or losing sight of the humanity of a group of people or the unique value of individual humans within a group is that it normalizes violence, and there's a risk that the intolerable starts to become tolerable with respect to that group. That things that you wouldn't ordinarily accept in terms of the way other human beings are treated, you do start to accept when it comes to that group. So I've started a bit of an experiment based on what I've read about deep canvassing and about QAnon and people who have come out of QAnon. And the goal of this experiment, to be clear, is not to convert anyone, not to change anyone who is part of MAGA's mind. It's not to get them to now vote Democrat or think that liberals are great. The goal is to try to recognize the humanity in one another and try to find a sliver of common ground, no matter how small. So I've been leveraging two Facebook groups that I'm part of. One for the community in which I live and another for the community in which I grew up. These are in separate states, but they are both red communities with a population of between 20 and 40,000. So I've gone into these groups and been making posts where I ask questions from a standpoint of curiosity and an open mind. And I've also included critiques of my own side of the fence. And the goal in that was to demonstrate goodwill, and to try to increase the comfort level of people who might be considering responding. And while there have been some negative responses, I have been honestly shocked by the overwhelming positive response. Like I said, these are red communities. One of them is deep, deep red, maroon almost. We on the left and the right are so busy, I think, hating one another and yelling at one another. And to be honest, it's partially by design, because major media is controlled by the billionaires, and the billionaires have a vested interest in us hating one another, because then we won't pay attention to what they are doing. And in opening up this dialogue with people on the right, they acknowledge the same. They are not unaware of this issue. And, they don't like that corporate interests and that the billionaires have so much power. And yes, I know there's a certain hypocrisy in that, given the administration's cabinet and some of the other people, but at the same time, there's a certain level of hypocrisy on the left in that regard as well, because I've seen a lot of people on the left talk about, we want Mark Cuban to run for president, which makes me just cringe. They also really want to see things like term limits. They're not happy with all of these career politicians. there's other areas where there is common ground. And I think what I've also learned through these discussions is that some of the things that we on the left believe about the right are not entirely accurate. And again, it's because we're in echo chambers. At this point, most people on the right have been cut off from any relationships they ever may have had with people on the left. And they've also been heavily impacted by 20 plus years of, Rush Limbaugh, Fox News. And so they truly believe that people on the left hate them, that they hate this country, that they want to destroy this country, and that they want to destroy people on the right. And it's simply not true. But how would they know that? It's not like they're going to sample left-wing media, not when they're told it's all lies. And it's not like they're going to reach out to people on the left when we've all cut them off. And some of the people, I think, on the right are starting to wake up and become really concerned. But if nobody on the left engages with them, they're going to become non-voters. They're not going to vote Democrat. They're not going to join protests. They're not going to get involved. If we want that to happen, some of us have to help bridge the gap. But even if we can't bridge that gap, I think the conversations are worthwhile just from the standpoint of rehumanizing the other side of the fence, the people on the other side of the fence. And to be clear, this is not something that I think everyone has a responsibility to do. It's not. If you are part of a marginalized community, this is not your responsibility in any way, shape, or form. It's not. Because I recognize that the policies on the right cause you the greatest harm. But I have white privilege, and so I think this is something that I can and should do. I also have an extraordinary degree of patience, and I am very, very slow to anger. These characteristics have most often been a curse in my life. However, in this case, I think they're beneficial. So I am learning some things. I am having ongoing conversations with a number of different people, and it's been very informative. And I'm now starting to get questions directed back at me, which I think is a good sign. And these are questions that are not posed in a negative fashion. These are questions that are returned from a standpoint of curiosity. If you have white privilege and you are patient and slow to anger, this is something to consider. Even if the only thing it accomplishes is breaking through some of the right-wing media nonsense that tells people on the right that we hate the United States and that we hate them, I think it's worthwhile. And it's possible it does more than that, because the fact of the matter is there are people on the right who aren't really happy with what's going on and are regretting their vote. They might join our side, but in order for that to happen, we have to overcome that, all the things that they've been told about the left. If anybody's interested on the slivers of common ground that I found, or the things that I've learned specifically about why people on the right voted the way they did, I'm happy to share those in another video. Just comment if that's something that you'd be interested in. Either way, I'm going to continue doing this and just see what I can learn and see what comes out of it.